Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our Social Science Extreme Events Research, or SSEER, Research Network Virtual Forum focused on the recent 2019 California earthquakes. And hi, everyone. My name is Lori Peak, and I'm the Principal Investigator for the National Science Foundation SSEER Network. And I really wanted to start out by thanking all of those who have decided to join this webinar from near and far today. We will be together for the next hour and are looking forward to a couple of presentations as well as an opportunity for us to share information across the network. First, I wanted to again welcome you all to the webinar and the virtual forum today, and also really wanted to acknowledge a couple of people and organizations who have been instrumental in this process. But first, I did want to note that this virtual forum is being recorded, and we will post the recording as well as a lightly edited transcript of the recording online on the Converge website. I really wanted to acknowledge and thank Jessica Austin, who is a PhD student in sociology and is also a graduate research assistant here at the Natural Hazard Center, who will be assisting us today and ensuring that any comments, questions, resources, or other information that you share in the webinar, that it be made available. So we will post the transcript from that. I also wanted to make sure and really acknowledge the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute, which has been holding nightly briefings on the California earthquakes. And also we're going to hear more from two EERI members very shortly. Also wanted to thank our partners at Esri for their ongoing support with the generation of the SSEER interactive mapping portal, as well as the National Science Foundation for the support of the SSEER network, as well as the larger Converge facility of which SSEER and ICEER are a part. Today, we really have three objectives for our time together. And so first and foremost, Manny and Erica, who are joining us as our first presenters, are going to share with us some about the virtual reconnaissance activities that they have been leading, as well as share some of what has already been learned about some of the early effects of the 2019 California earthquakes. And Manny and Erica will also be sharing and discussing some opportunities for social scientists to become more deeply involved and integrated into some of the virtual reconnaissance activities that they have been leading. After that, and after some time for discussion and Q&A, then Jennifer Tobin from the Natural Hazard Center is going to share about some small grant funding opportunities that are available, and we'll share some other resources. And then the bulk of our time together today, we are hoping will be dedicated to information sharing across members of the SSEER network. And so in particular today, we are looking forward to hearing from locally affected researchers, social scientists who are in the Southern California region that has already been affected by the 6.4, 7.1, and other earthquake activities. And a note on this identification and hearing from locally affected researchers, we think that one of the most powerful ways that we can use the SSEER interactive mapping portal that you all have so generously signed up for and are a part of is that we are hoping that while this portal is obviously already being used during non-disaster times, we also think that it can be a powerful tool during times of disaster to identify locally affected researchers. So we were able to draw on the list of SSEER researchers in the region that's been most affected by the earthquakes and reach out to them. So we are looking forward to hearing from them today. And also, we're looking forward to learning from other social scientists who are already collecting data related to the 2019 California earthquakes, as well as to other social scientists who I know are out there who've joined us today, who have experienced studying the societal consequences of earthquakes. In addition, today there will be time, and we will use the chat function for this, to hear from those who are considering launching a quick response study or other field investigation or other research related to the California earthquakes. And then also look forward to hearing from anyone else who has joined this webinar and virtual forum who has resources to share. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to ask that if you have questions or comments or resources to share, that you please use the chat box in Zoom. And again, we will be saving the chat transcript after this virtual forum ends so that we can share that with persons who were not able to join today on this particular call. And so if you could, again, please use the chat box for that purpose so all of the network members as well as the presenters who are on the call can see your questions, comments, or resources that you want to share. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to hear from 3 different persons who are going to be sharing information with the group. And so first, we're going to hear from Erica and Manny, who have been spearheading the virtual reconnaissance activities through the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute, and they have a wealth of knowledge to share with us about their experience and, again, what they've already learned about the California earthquake sequences. And so we are going to hear from Erica and Manny first, and then again, we'll have some time for interchange with Erica and Manny, and then we will move on. Jennifer will give a brief presentation about some funding opportunities, small grant funding that's available, and then we will dedicate our remaining time to sharing information. So I hope you will join me in thanking Erica, Manny, and Jennifer, who have pulled together these presentations in relatively short order, but as I think you will soon hear, have a wealth of information and opportunities to share. And so without further ado, we're going to dive in here and I'm going to pass the controls over to Erica and Manny so they can begin their presentation and begin sharing about their virtual reconnaissance activities. So Erica and Manny, can you go ahead and I'll stop sharing my screen right now, and then I think and hope you should begin to be able to share your screen. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. I'm going to just share my screen, and then Manny is going to present the first half of the presentation so you don't have to keep bouncing it back and forth.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started, I want to thank Lori Peak for giving us the honor and the platform to present to you about who we are, what we do, and how we hope to expand our work to have more involvement from social scientists. I'm one of the Virtual Earthquake Reconnaissance Team, or VERT, co-chairs, and I have the privilege to work with our other co-chair, Erica Fischer. Okay, we're going to start the presentation by an overview of VERT, its goals, what it consists of, and how it operates. The primary goal of VERT is to train the next generation of reconnaissance engineers. VERT provides virtual reconnaissance services to the engineering and social science community to improve the quality of data obtained from the in-field reconnaissance. VERT is a subcommittee to the Learning from Earthquake, or LFE, committee of the Earthquake Engineering Research Institute, or AERI. LFE committee consists of experts in earthquake reconnaissance and from many different backgrounds. VERT also works closely with the Younger Members Committee of the AERI, and our members are either early career academics, early career professionals, or graduate students. Okay, so VERT operates in different phases. Phase 1 of our response typically gets activated right after an extreme event. Although majority of our efforts in the past have been on earthquakes, but we have also responded to hurricanes in the past as well. During phase 1 of operation, which typically takes place during the first 48 hours after an extreme event, we provide a report consisting of slides summarizing the extent of damage with regards to civil infrastructure, geotechnical impacts, and how the emergency response has been coordinated. Upon or after we complete phase 1, and upon request from reconnaissance teams or organizations, and since we would have access to more data published online, we take a more detailed look at a few specific topics. These topics come from reconnaissance teams or organizations who are deciding whether or not to do a reconnaissance site visit, and they want to know more about specific topics before they make that decision. In phase 3 of our response, and after some reconnaissance teams have decided that they will send a team to the site, we provide them with information that would help them prepare for the in-field reconnaissance. An example could be looking into past disasters or local building codes, or providing them an electronic map of the damaged points. So in summary, phase 1 and phase 2, they provide information to groups to make informed decisions. And phase 3 provides information to reconnaissance teams to help with data-driven informed reconnaissance. During phase 3 of our response, we can also pair reconnaissance teams with local chapters of the EERI and other EERI contacts, which will know more about local codes and regulations. Moving forward to phase 4, and after reconnaissance teams have come back from the field, we provide manpower for post-data processing of the information obtained from the reconnaissance effort. In our last phase of response, which can take from 1 to 1.5 years after the disaster, we summarize results from in-field reconnaissance teams, but we also look at concept of resiliency and how the community has changed since the extreme event happened. You know, the change can be in the form of, or in terms of neighborhood, or in terms of engineering codes, or other aspects. We publish all of our reports for every phase in the Learning from Earthquake Clearinghouse of EERI, and we also publish them in Design Safe.
Okay, so Manny's presented to you all a little bit about our framework, but to kind of look at contextually, what have we actually done in the past? We responded to a lot of different events, and so I'm listing a number of different events on the left that are mainly earthquakes, but also hurricanes, tsunamis, one volcanic eruption. And the topics that I'm listing on the right are the topics really that we're covering in that phase 1 report. So we just published our phase 1 report on Design Safe last night, and it included a lot of these topics that were applicable to the California earthquakes. So our team is deploying, and within 48 hours, we can generate a report that provide some contextual information for people who might be going into the field, and also just kind of gleans through information on the internet and social media to really put the information in a digestible format. As we all know, there's a lot coming out of the communities after an event. And so I'm going to kind of exit out of this for a second and show you all what we've been doing for California. And so our reports are formatted in a slide format. So again, we're not publishing academic reports. Really the purpose of what we're doing is to get information to agencies that can help make decisions or help supplement information that they're gaining in the field. And so this phase one report and response is really meant to help get information out into the community. So we do it in quite a digestible format, and I'm just going to highlight one of the sections that we did. There were a number of fires that occurred after this particular earthquake, and so what we've done is we've made a Google map of all these locations, including the fires that occurred after the 6.4 earthquake and after the 7.1 earthquake. We share the link to that map so that people can use it. And then we use, we're just writing, short blurbs about the topic, not really writing a report, but again, just bulleting the important facts that people need to understand in order to make a decision on how to respond if they need to the particular earthquake. And so this includes a lot of figures, and then again, social media we use quite a bit. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All from the source itself. So we're using fire departments, emergency management, American Red Cross, and then just other engineers that are in the field. Okay, so that's how really we've responded to the California earthquake. And again, I just showed one particular section. The report is out on Design Safe, and we'd love to share it with anyone who is interested. But it's about 100 pages long, so I'm not going to scroll through all of that today. But what we've really learned so far is that there's been a lot of interesting geotechnical damage that we can learn from this particular earthquake, and it's caused a lot of damage on structures and on lifelines. The structural damage is really seen to single-family homes rather than to like multi-story buildings. We've seen that a lot of in-field teams are working with local municipalities to learn about their damage assessment processes. Are they using the APC 20 format? How are they deploying? How are they managing that process? We noticed through the ERI clearinghouse there was a lot of interesting dynamics between Oshkosh and the hospital. There was a hospital in Ridgecrest. The hospital in Ridgecrest seemed to respond in a very conservative manner, evacuating the hospital and shutting down a lot of their operations. But they had no structural damage. They just had some water leaks due to sprinkler damage. And it just seemed that there was a big disconnect between how Oshkosh kind of viewed this damage versus how the decisions that the hospital made itself. There was limited school damage, which is always wonderful to see, that the ordinances in California are working. There was a lot of local business damage due to just products falling off the shelves, non-structural damage. So tracking business continuity will be quite interesting in that particular area. We saw that the roads were able to be repaired quite quickly, so transportation issues were not really an issue on that front. And then lastly, it seemed like there was some miscommunication on a number of the fires. So there were the number of fires that were being reported by the mayor was not particularly reflected in the Kern County Fire Department records. So there were a lot more fires being reported than by the mayor and in the media than actually occurred. Okay, so here's kind of the meat of our presentation. Okay, so how can we get social scientists to be involved? Because we would love to get social scientists to be involved in our efforts. First off, just as Manny said, if there are some particular topics of interest that we can recruit some of our members to be working collaboratively with social scientists, we think we would love to do that. We can send out an email to all of our members, and we usually get very quick responses, and we have a lot of people who are eager to help. To date, we have no social scientists that are members of VERT. So all of the work that we're doing is really being done by structural engineers and geotechnical engineers and seismologists. And so some topics that we have investigated in the past, we've looked at population displacement after Palu, Indonesia, after the earthquake and tsunami, tracking where people are going, what camps have what number of people, where are the camps and shelters. We've looked at business continuity, and we've done all of this remotely through virtual methods. We've looked at business continuity to help the ERI, Learning from Earthquakes team, for their Anchorage, Alaska trip. We were able to look into over 100 different businesses that had closed down, and when they reopened, if they have reopened. We have done investigations in the past on personal responses, so looking at CCTV footage through Twitter on drop covering and holding. We've helped Sarah McBride at USGS on this project after Anchorage, Alaska. We always look into emergency response. This is something that we're interested in, how emergency response is communicating with the public, and then alternatively, how the public can communicate back to emergency response. So a lot of this is going on through social media, but tracking those communication patterns and understanding if they are effective, if people are getting frustrated with them or not. And then looking at emergency response through who is coming to help out, what other municipalities in the area have deployed help and assistance to the affected communities. And then looking at schools and school closures. Obviously it's July, so not many school closures, but schools are used for a variety of different activities, and those might have been delayed. So that's all of our presentation for today, and we're happy to turn it back over to Lori to answer any questions or see if anyone is interested.
Erica and Manny, thank you so much for giving that overview of VERT and for sharing some of your initial findings. And just thank you so much for, it's clear how much work has already occurred. And so to the participants on the call, I think what we will do now, and again, Manny and Erica, thank you so much for this. So I think what we'll do is already, I saw a couple of questions pop up in the Q&A box. So why don't we take, if there are any questions or comments for Manny and for Manny and Erica, we'll go ahead and address those right now. And then we'll transition over to Jennifer, and Jennifer has a couple minutes worth of slides to share. And then we will use our remaining time for information sharing across the participants on the meeting. And so I'm going to start out, Jeanette Sutton used the Q&A box and ask a question here about, she wanted to know, Erica, if you could go a little bit deeper. You mentioned the different phases, but if you could go a little deeper in, or Manny provided the overview of the different phases involved in the VERT activities, but Jeanette wanted to know if you could go a little bit deeper in terms of the methods that are actually used in terms of collecting the data. And so you mentioned social media data, you're looking at news media data and so forth. So what are the methods that the teams actually use to get this information during that phase 1 report, please?
Sure. Absolutely, our method of search, or the data or the reports that are available to us, is different from phase to phase. So in phase 1, as you mentioned, we're basically looking mostly into news media, Twitter accounts of different agencies such as Fire Department, Department of Transportation, United States Geological Services, and also Instagram or Twitter accounts of local representatives with the city, county, or sheriff and police representatives. In phase 2, it's very similar to phase 1, but we have more data available. And there will typically be some draft reports available by a few agencies such as USGS, for example, discussing the ground motions, aftershocks, and also other early drafts of reports. In phase 3, we again look into early drafts of reports, but mostly we look into local codes and existing regulations, and who the local contact is in the county, in the water department, in the sewer, in the fire, and so forth. So we are providing assistance in terms of pairing local contacts with the reconnaissance teams. In phase 4, we get the data from, we actually collect the data from reconnaissance teams to process them, and we coordinate with them on how they want us to do things. In phase 5, which is almost 1 year after the event, we have reports from many different agencies coming back. The data have already been processed and so forth. So we look into those, but we also dive into how local codes or regulations have potentially changed. Has there been any, population displacement and so forth? And we summarize all these reports into a VERT phase 5 report, summarizing all these reports and also looking into resiliency.
I also want to add that a lot of the times in phase 1, there are a lot of reports coming out of the impacted communities. So in Mexico and in Indonesia and in Japan, a lot of the local universities publish or send out reports within a day of, because they're on the ground, they go out, they collect a lot of the information. And usually that's sent out to the engineering community, either through the Design Safe Slack account or through ERI. So we can use a lot of that as well to use for our phase 1. And then also utility companies, at least for this particular earthquake, the Southern California Edison Electrical Company was posting outages and the number of people affected. And so we can track that live. And so like every couple hours checking back and seeing who's affected, how many people, and through that we can track utility recovery and how quickly people are getting their electricity back. And then the fire department was also, at least the Kern County Fire Department for this particular earthquake, was posting they have incident reports. So I was working on the post-earthquake fires, and I could live pick up all of the structural fires that they were responding to.
Nice. Thank you, Erica and Manny. And I also saw a couple of hands that were raised. I saw Sarah McBride raise a hand. And so one thing, we're actually using the webinar function in Zoom. And so in order for us to communicate with one another today, we're going to need to use the chat box. And I'm going to try to figure out through CU Boulder another function where we can actually have people on the call. I think I have to call a virtual meeting for us to be able to speak to one another. And so we'll do that for future virtual forums, but for this one we'll use the chat box. And I see that another person has written in saying that I led, and I'm reading these out loud because I know some of you are on the telephone, so and not seeing the screen. So Miralessa said, I led research on communication during and after Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. At present, I am starting a research project on tsunami knowledge, preparedness, and communication in Puerto Rico's 44 coastal municipalities. I am interested in investigating government communication and civic education regarding preparedness, family plans, and personal response in earthquake-prone areas. I would love to be involved in any research on that subject in California. And so this is great, and thank you so much for writing this in. I think this is a way for us to use this virtual forum both to share our collective interests, and also, again, Manny and Erica, could you share with the phase 1 report is now done, but then with the phase 2 and phase 3 reports, if there are interested researchers like this who are out there, what do they do as a next step if they would like to get involved with future activities?
Yeah, so we have a sign-up sheet through the ERI website, and I can send that link to Lori so that she can distribute it. And then we will disseminate. We have this survey so that we can get an idea if anyone wants to has a specific project they want to look into for phase 2 that they need help with. And then whenever we get one of those types of projects, we email out to everyone on our distribution list and ask, we say, okay, if you're interested, then sign up here. So, if you have a project that you're interested in, especially government communication, I think it's really fascinating. I mean, I'm a structural engineer, so I'm not particularly equipped to look into this, but I think it's been really fascinating to see how governments have changed their communications over time. And now with social media and internet communications, there's a lot that we can do virtually to look into that, and it doesn't need to be real time. We can do it kind of retroactively.
Nice. Thank you. And Manny and Erica, we just really want to, again, thank you for sharing this framework and for all that you have been doing across this variety of events that you shared with us to really try to get a sense of what is happening on the ground in this sort of rapid and a more systematic way. And so thank you for sharing this with us. And in the interest of time, I'm going to ask if Jennifer Tobin could please go ahead and share her screen. And then she has a couple of slides. And Alexa Tanner, I see you're out there and have raised your hand. And so people who are raising your hands, again, I'm so sorry, we only for this meeting have the function to use the chat box or the Q&A box. And so if you could pop anything up there. I also see that Ann Gordon has said, I'm the director of the Babby Center at Chapman in the heart of Orange County. I would like to offer VERT and other researchers our campus resources, including office space and housing, free of charge. We can host on short notice. Also, we are collecting data in the Ridgecrest area. So Ann, thank you for sharing that. And I'm popping over. I see there are a lot of other Q&As that I was missing. So Jen, before we transition over to you, I'm going to go through this Q&A box so people on the call and Manny and Erica can hear this too. So Lauren Clay says, in the business continuity or other data collected, do you have information on food stores? If so, how many, and is it a comprehensive list? Sarah Hamada said, are resources available for collecting primary population dislocation data through quick surveys, which Sarah, I think Jen is going to get to that in a moment. Jeanette said, thank you, that was super helpful. Sarah McBride said there was a town hall last night. Do we have any feedback or questions or concerns from residents about it? Alexa Tanner said that was a mistake on raising her hand, sorry. So no, Alexa, thank you for being with us. And Sarah McBride said, I'm a social scientist at the USGS specializing in communication for earthquakes. Very interested to join in. So I think Erica and Manny, before we let you go and drop over to Jen, could you respond to Lauren Clay's question about business continuity and whether you've collected information on food stores?
We haven't particularly honed in on specific businesses for business continuity. We did find some some pictures and locations of some stores that were damaged just because of contents falling off the shelves that we have in our report. But we haven't like honed in on specific categories of businesses to look at how many were damaged.
But Lauren, thank you so much for asking that question, because this is exactly how sort of getting a sense of the different issues and that social scientists are interested in can really help to make what is already a really dynamic and robust framework even more dynamic and robust. So thank you for that. And thank you again, Erica and Manny and Jen. If you would go ahead and share the slides that you have, which I think we'll get at Sarah Hamada's question, and then Sarah McBride, we're going to loop back to you and the really good question you asked about the town hall.
Okay, great. Can you hear me and see my slides, Lori?
Yeah, your slides look great, and I can hear you great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to Lori, Erica, and Manny, of course, for a great overview of SSEER and VERT. I think this is a great forum so we can begin exploring all these opportunities to learn more about the California earthquakes. So like Lori said, my name is Jennifer Tobin, and I am the Deputy Administrator of the Natural Hazards Center. And I'm also one of the administrators for our small grants research programs here at the center. So some of you, let's see this. Okay, some of you might already be familiar with our longstanding quick response grant program. This is just a snapshot of our webpage where you can find out more information about the program, and you can also submit your proposals here. You can find this at hazards.colorado.edu. Up in the right-hand corner of my screen, you'll see the web link /research /quick response to find this page. So the QR program has been generously funded by the National Science Foundation for nearly 35 years. This program offers small grants of between $2,000 and $5,000 to help individual and teams of researchers get into the field quickly to begin collecting perishable data after a disaster. After conducting their research, grant recipients are also asked to submit a 10-page report to the Natural Hazards Center within 3 months of the existing of exiting the field. We currently have over 250 reports published over the last almost 35 years on our website, which you can find at hazards.colorado.edu. And so when the reports become available, when the authors write the reports, we edit them here at the center, and then we post them to our website where they will live. The goal of this program is to promote social science and interdisciplinary innovation in disaster research. We have put out a few different special calls. Currently, the Quick Response Grant Program is an open rolling grant program where you can apply at any time. Anytime a disaster happens and you would like to apply for funding, you're welcome to at any time. But we do also put out special calls when those events warrant more serious attention, and people submit the proposals all at once, and then we choose the proposals that rise to the top that we'll fund with the money that we have available for each of those special events. And then we're really excited to announce that we have a new small grant program called Mitigation Matters. And this is also funded by the National Science Foundation with a supplemental funding from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And the goal of the Mitigation Matters grant program is to enable innovative next generation natural hazards mitigation research, because of course we realize that we have less research and less science available about how people can mitigate against these big events. And so we wanted to expand our programming to be able to include research that's not just focused on collecting perishable data after a disaster, but is really focused on great mitigation work that's being done in the field, and also to highlight opportunities for better mitigation work in the future. These small grants will range between $1,500 to $2,500, and they do not have to have people going out into the field to collect this data. Data can be collected in many different forms, and we will offer funding for more than just travel expenses like we do for the Quick Response Grant Program. So currently, this program just started, so our webpage isn't built out yet, but it will live right where that Quick Response Grant Program webpage lives on our website. And we will release two special calls per year for these proposals. The first one will be in October of 2019, and then the second one will be in March of 2020. And then we'll release dates in the future for those additional calls that will happen every year. And then in regards to the California wildfires, please keep in mind if mitigation issues do emerge after this disaster, please keep this program in mind and that open call in October that will happen if you are interested in getting money to study mitigation work around this event in particular. And so one of the easiest ways to kind of keep up with the notifications and special calls that come out for both of these small grant programs is to sign up on our website. You can see where it says, it's highlighted right there, it says subscribe. You can subscribe to both of these small grant programs and get updates. And when we do release special calls, we'll automatically email that group of people and let you know what the criteria for that special call is. And so you can learn more information. And the web link is on the top right of the screen, hazards.colorado.edu/sign-up. So thank you, and please, if you have any questions about either of those programs, feel free to email me at any time, and I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer. And to those of you who are out there on this, who have joined us today for this virtual forum, again, many thanks to Manny and Erica and to Jennifer for the information sharing. And so now if you have any questions for what Jennifer just shared related to the Quick Response Program or the new Mitigation Matters Program, or if you are someone on who has joined together with us today who has access to information or other resources that you would like to share with the network members who are on the call or who may access the transcript later. Also, if you are a researcher in Southern California, now is the time. If there is information that you would like to share, societal issues that you are seeing emerging that you think may really warrant these kinds of additional investigations that you've been hearing about today, or if you are just someone on the call with a expertise in studying earthquakes or have other information to share, again, if you could please use the chat box at the bottom or the Q&A box, and I'll do my best to read these out loud if they're a question for a panelist or just information that you'd like to share across the network. And so I, again, wanted to go back to Ann Gordon, who again made this generous offer from the Babby Center at Chapman, offering to support VERT and other researchers. And Ann, thank you again for this. And if you would be willing, I don't know if you have a contact email that you might be willing to share that you would be willing to pop into the chat box. We will make that a part of the record for the virtual forum. And then let me see, I'm looking up here on the Q&A to see if anything else is up there. Okay, Niru Agrawal asked, can you please talk about the demographics in the impact area? And thank you, Anne, for the email. So Erica and Manny, I think this is really a question for you, and obviously a number of different areas have been affected in quite different ways, ranging from evacuations of military bases to you know, more rural areas, more urban areas, and so forth. So can you talk to us, Manny and Erica, about how during either your phase 1 or phase 2 reports, how you do gather population demographic information and how that has been integrated either into your present earthquake report or in your past reports, how you've gotten socio-demographic information? Thank you for the great question.
I think it's been typically incorporated further on, especially if we're preparing a team for the field. I think that demographics become quite important in preparing a team to enter into the field and know what they're getting themselves into. We do cover engineering culture, but also just the general culture of the area. We haven't really looked much into the demographics of the Ridgecrest area. There is a military base there. What we've heard from a number of teams that are actually in the field is that many of the buildings are newer rather than having these older buildings. this is maybe a wonderful reason why we need more social scientists to be involved in VERT, because we tend to look at more demographics of buildings rather than demographics of people. So I think this could really help kind of frame what we find and put it in a different context.
Nice, thank you so much. And a couple of other follow-ups that have come in. Ann Gordon very generously shared her email and also said, we found that SoCal residents are not familiar with drop cover and hold on, which is, I think something Jeanette Sutton from the University of Kentucky might also have some information to share on. So Anne says, we found that SoCal residents are not familiar with drop cover and hold on. A lot of folks are still standing in doorways, running out into the street, and they report feeling fear and panic mostly. And this is something I think Sarah McBride may also have a comment on, that she's gonna maybe share some of the work at the USGS survey or US Geological Survey around this. Cheryl says, I'm a Bay Area-based social scientist, public policy expert in disasters. My interests are performance of single-family homes and changes in attitudes about mitigation or insurance after these experiences, and earthquake early warning, potential behavioral response, potential benefits, et cetera, especially in rural areas. Cheryl says, it would be nice for this group to consider emerging questions, followed by a few direct calls among those interested in advanced issue-specific thinking. So yeah, Cheryl, thank you so much for sharing both your expertise and also thank you for the suggestion, because as the SSEER network is really getting up and mobilizing in this kind of way, I think you're absolutely right about we're trying to figure out our way as in how can we as social scientists best share this information. And so I think that's a great point, and thank you for that. Mark Benthian also has just written in. Mark says the Earthquake Country Alliance and Great Shakeout earthquake drills coordinated by the Southern California Earthquake Center are very interested in studies of self-protective actions, especially those with access and functional needs, as well as other vulnerable population aspects, how neighbors have come to each other's aid. Such information will help inform our messaging in California and elsewhere. So Mark, thank you for that. And I think this may be another quick question for Erica and Manny. In your early VERT report, were you able to call any information? Were you finding anything out about especially vulnerable populations? Anything about people with access and functional needs, persons with disabilities? Did anything come up around that with the news stories and other media that you were analyzing for phase 1 report?
We did not see much about that being reported in the news. We did try to keep track of kind of the latter part of Mark's question on how neighbors are helping each other, of different areas that are sending aid. There was a report that like one of the pet shelters had to close down, so another one took all their animals. Like Little Caesars Pizza was providing free pizza for everyone affected by the earthquake. So things along those lines we did report in our emergency response section, and a lot of that you can get off of Instagram and Twitter and Facebook of reports of local businesses helping out those who might need some help.
Nice. And Erica and Manny, a couple of other questions that have come in. Berta asked a question about, can we integrate these types of perspectives and projects from Peru? And so maybe Erica and Manny, I don't know if you can speak about where your VERT researchers come from or where they're drawn from, and how you have worked with persons from outside the United States in your prior VERT activities, to answer Berta's question.
So we have members from throughout the world. We have members from Peru. We have members from Mexico. We have members from Japan, from Iran, from Europe. From many other countries. And it's really useful because we don't only activate for earthquakes or major events in the United States, but we also activate and have activated for other extreme events internationally. So it will be really useful to have members with understanding of local language and local contacts. I remember in Tohoku, Japan earthquake, there was reports coming out from universities in local language. So we were really lucky to have a few people with understanding of the language that were able to help us translate and basically make an equivalent report in English. So absolutely, anyone is welcome to join VERT, and we always welcome people with backgrounds in knowing different languages, and it's really useful for us.
And Verta, thank you for asking that, and we will make sure that Manny and Erica's emails are shared, and as Erica said, making sure that we share the link to the VERT sign up. And thank you so much for the work that you are doing. Shelley Olds has raised a question, I think, for the group. She said, from a preparedness perspective, is anyone taking an assessment of damage within people's homes here, thinking about how to encourage preparedness within the home? And so I don't know the answer to that. If anyone out in the SSEER network is thinking of launching some kind of investigation specific to the 2019 California earthquakes, there has definitely been other research that has been done in this space on earthquake preparedness in particular. But Shelley, it is a fantastic question, and we will make sure and have this part of the record. And so in case that's something that you're interested in, that other members of the network can connect with you. And Niru said, thank you to Erica and Manny for the information that you just shared. And now I was sharing my screen, so I can't see the chat box anymore. Let me see if there's anything else in here I'm missing, sorry. Okay, so I think we have a couple of minutes remaining here, and everyone, I really want to say thank you for sticking with us during our first virtual reconnaissance, or virtual forum, excuse me, to try to gather members of the SSEER network together for information sharing. If you have feedback for us about how we can join the SSEER network together, Cheryl already had some good feedback on how we might get organized around some questions that people are interested in asking. We would welcome your feedback. And then I also wanted to share, just in closing, a couple of additional resources. And so one of the ways that we are hoping that we can keep the conversation going among the SSEER network is Design Safe is the National Science Foundation funded cyber infrastructure for the natural hazards community. And the Design Safe has set up a series of Slack channels for both disciplinary specific communities, and we actually do have a Slack channel for the SSEER community that you can join via the Design Safe broader network. And Design Safe has been very effective with their use of Slack in terms of this past weekend. Khalid Maslam from Berkeley, I think he was the first one. He set up a Slack channel on the initial earthquake, and lots of people got on there. And then as the virtual reconnaissance activities started, another Slack channel was created so that Erica and Manny and the other researchers who were contributing directly to these early virtual reports were able to communicate with one another. And so I think one of the ways that we can be in more regular communication and share information and resources as a social science network is through this SSEER Slack channel. And so we will post some specific instructions on how you can join the Design Safe Slack network initially and then join the SSEER network. So we will be sharing that with you so we can keep this conversation going. And then again, we hope that you will please, if you have questions or comments or additional information that you would like to share, please do contact us at SSEER, which is SSEER at colorado.edu. You can also view the SSEER map, which as previously announced now has all of the different sub-layers for all of the information that you all shared when you signed up for the SSEER network. Also, you can find the results of the initial census of the social science community on the web link that is provided there and that we will share after that. We'll share these slides after the virtual forum ends. And also, if you know of other social scientists who are not currently in the network, we'll hope you will encourage them to join. And we will, as previously noted, post this recording, any resources that you have shared through the chat as well as through the Q&A function to make sure and get that up as a resource for you on the converge.colorado.edu /communications page. And so with that, so we can end in a timely manner, we want to offer our sincere thanks to Manny, Erica, and Jennifer for taking the time to present. And so many thanks to all of you who took the time to join together on this first virtual forum for the SSEER network. And we are looking forward to continuing to learn from you and to work with you. And so thank you so much, everyone. And I hope that you have a good rest of your day wherever you are in the world. And thank you for joining with us today.